Hey, what's up guys? Tyler here with Secure Team. Well, what a way to start the new year. NASA, otherwise known as Never a Straight Answer, has now given us a new warning that there are, quote, two celestial objects approaching Earth and are currently zooming through our solar system. Apparently, these two objects are either asteroids or comets, but they don't seem to be sure which. So news reports are just hitting the web here, and according to these reports, these two massive space rocks, as they're calling them, are not only heading for our planet, or at least near our planet, in the path of our planet, we'll say, but they're so large that there's a good chance you'll be able to see them entering Earth's orbit. The space agency's comet hunting NEOWISE mission spotted a comet incoming this week and another that is set to enter Earth's orbit in February. The latter object, dubbed 2016 WF9, was detected by NASA in late November and has left scientists scratching their heads. Now get this, they have described the celestial object as a cross between an asteroid and a comet. Now, I'm not quite sure where they're getting that. I mean, it's either one or the other, unless it's some sort of strange hybrid comet-asteroid that we've never seen before. It's just kind of strange to me that they aren't identifying what it is, well, what these two objects are. And by the way, we've had a lot of strange instances in terms of comets and asteroids that have been captured in space in the past, where the circumstances were so strange, in fact, that you have to question whether they were actually asteroids or comets at all. But we'll get to that here in just a second. Now, according to NASA, there is no current fear that the rock or rocks will collide with Earth, but it will provide an incredible spectacle as it soars over our planet. NASA hopes that by seeing this thing, it will give them a chance to figure out what it exactly is. Now again, this is kind of strange to me because often NASA is very precise, very detailed, and when they track these objects that are heading toward Earth, or objects that are at least close enough that they can track them, you usually get a press release in which they tell you, I mean, at the very least, whether it's an asteroid or a comet, but most of the time they give you the size, the weight, the chemical composition, the trajectory, and we're not getting any of that here. So, I mean, it's just strange to me. I'm not saying that it's anything else, but basically what we know here is that comets, which if you guys don't know, are made of frozen gas, rock, and dust. And they release this gas as they fly close to the sun, which in turn starts to melt the comet, releasing this beautiful tail or trail of debris as it heats up. Now, this object, 2016 WF9, resembles a comet in its reflectivity and orbit. However, what it does not contain, and what has not been seen, is the characteristic dust and gas cloud, or tail, which is the key component to that of a comet. That's how we tell what comets are. This object doesn't have that, and that's also strange. According to the other reports we have, this second object, which was discovered by NEOWISE a month earlier, is apparently more clearly defined as a comet, and has been seen to be releasing dust as it nears our sun, where it will soon come close to Earth before heading back out into outer space on an orbit that will last over 1,000 years. Paul Kotis, who is the manager of NASA's Center for Near-Earth Object Studies at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, said that these objects have a good chance of becoming visible through a good pair of binoculars, although we can't be sure because a comet's brightness is notoriously unpredictable. NASA further said that this discovery could mean a change in how we identify rocks in space. So, basically, from everything we've heard from NASA, never a straight answer, of course, we're pretty much as much in the dark at the end of everything we've spoken about today as we were at the beginning of the video. We really know nothing, and according to NASA, they don't know really what these objects are. They're saying that they're likely this or likely that. One of them seems to be a mix between a comet and an asteroid. One of them is displaying properties and characteristics of a comet, but is not displaying one of the most key components of a comet, which is the debris field or tail. And, I mean, I don't know. Is that strange to you guys? I'd love to hear your opinions on it. Again, this is just breaking, so just to pause here. As I said earlier, we've had many more strange occurrences where we have seen things in the sky that NASA had identified as either asteroids or comets, but to those of us in the public and on the outside, many of these objects that are out there in space at this minute as we speak also contained a very strange set of characteristics, and the evidence pointed away from them being natural and into the realm of possibly artificial. So what are some of these examples? Well, there's a few that I'll go ahead and talk about today. Many of you may have heard about this. For those of you who haven't, there was a specific comet called Comet Ison. That's I-S-O-N. And this quote-unquote comet was very strange. And to this day, many people do not believe that it was a comet at all. So, Comet Ison, formerly known as C-2012, was a supposed sun-grazing comet discovered on September 21st, 2012. And if you remember, or followed sort of the alternative news media at that time, there was a lot of fear-mongering back in 2012. I'm sure many of you remember that this was supposed to be the end of the world. The Mayans predicted it. Nibiru was going to come into contact, all of these different theories. Of course, none of it happened. But at that time, Comet Ison and the high strangeness that surrounded it was kind of lumped into that whole doomsday scenario. But it had nothing to do with it, and on its own, Comet Ison was strange enough that you didn't need any of that other nonsense. So what we know is that this comet supposedly had come from the Oort cloud region of our solar system. It was heading near our sun, and it was dubbed, or it was supposed to be, the comet of the century. And remember, a comet is, at the very core, a bright ball of frozen matter, mostly ice. And when this comet was approaching the sun and was expected to actually pierce the sun's corona on November 28th, 2012, scientists all over the world were expecting this big, beautiful show. That this would be the comet of the century, the brightest thing in our sky that we had ever seen, and then the comet just disappeared. Now, of course, NASA came out later and said, well, the evidence shows that the comet likely broke up before it reached the sun. But when researchers started to look at Hubble images, they noticed something very strange, particularly that of the shape of this object. Here you're seeing, on the left, an unedited view of this supposed comet, the raw image. We just see this bright glowing ball of light, nothing there. However, when the image was enhanced to show what was underneath this bright glowing ball, this here on the right is what we found. Now, without going any further, I ask you, since when do comets take on the form of three separate objects moving in a perfect triangular V-shaped formation? And the answer is, they don't. Here we're showing you some other images, different views of this V-shaped object, glowing as it moved through space. Now, NASA, being the slippery organization that they are, well, they later, after this was exposed, came out and said, well, this is just an imaging artifact. To which researchers quickly replied that if this were an artifact, why are the rest of the stars in the image not showing the same artifact? If this is some sort of double or triple exposure, then we would see the same artifact in all of the stars surrounding the object, but we don't. And honestly, it was a poor attempt by NASA to cover their tracks and explain this object, which was quite clearly not a comet. And because it was not a comet, it perfectly explained the reason why astronomers and the big heads at NASA didn't get their show of the century, when they didn't get this bright glowing flash that would have been able to have been seen by millions of people on Earth once it started to melt as it flew into the sun. Because it didn't fly into the sun, because it wasn't a comet. We have yet another image where in certain instances, we see other UFOs, unidentified objects that are flying with Comet Ison, as you're seeing in this image here, where you can see this object being escorted by another unknown body, which again, like the comet, would have to be miles in length. To this day, Comet Ison remains a mystery, in the face and despite all of NASA's attempts to peg it as just another ordinary space object, nothing to look at, and not worth your time. And that anyone who says different, well, you're just a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist. Kind of like in the same way you were pegged a deplorable if you voted for Trump. So, Comet Ison, very interesting. Another very strange object that was seen, and again, to this day, unexplained, was that of this object that you're seeing here, which was a massive, mysterious, spaceship-looking object that was detected by the Hubble telescope back in 2010 that was traveling over 11,000 miles through space. It was famously dubbed the X-shaped asteroid, officially known as P-2010-A2. Again, NASA wasn't sure whether this object was a comet, an asteroid, or something else. But what couldn't be ignored about this object was the very strange shape found at the end of this long, million-mile-long tail. This glowing tail here grew over the months that it was observed to over 1 million miles long. And what we saw leading the tail was a strange X shape. And not only that, what was also seen were what appeared to be unidentified objects that were traveling near the X, again, escorting this thing as it blasted through space. And you can see one of those objects here. NASA had no idea what it was. All they could do was speculate. But according to one NASA scientist, who off the cuff stated, and I quote, "We have no clue about what this is, and we're all still speculating about how this object was formed." The phenomenon, the object, was left unexplained. The public left in the dark, and NASA, of course, once again, not sure, quote unquote, what the object was. But it was unlike anything they had ever seen before. So, back to the topic here. Objects with reflective bodies, so the reflecting light seen heading towards Earth, but that are acting like two different types of space rocks. So, with that, let me know what you guys think. If you're new to the channel, be sure to head over to the main channel and click on the little notification bell next to the subscribe button. Otherwise, you will not get notifications when we post a new video. So be sure to stick around. I've got a lot of stuff on the way, new footage, strange happenings. You guys know the deal. We'll have a new video up very soon, and I feel like 2017 is really going to be a special year for this research, and we may just finally break through one of truth's protective layers and reveal, without any shred of a doubt, the existence of the alien phenomenon and the ongoing cover-up that has followed it for 50+ years. So thanks for watching, share and like on your way out, I really appreciate it, and stay safe.